Hi there. So today we're going to show how to prepare serum and plasma. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're wearing gloves. We're going to go ahead and select the correct vacuum container tubes. So I'll go ahead and show you. So the first thing is we have our serum separator right here. We have a EDTA anticoagulant tube. Our purple top tube, and then we have our no additive, just plain tube. So the instructions state red top tube. This is actually the new red top tube for us. So, but this is just an additive-free tube that we use. So we have our tubes ready, and then I'll show you what else I have over here. So I have my isopropyl alcohol for drawing blood. I have a pair of clippers. I'm going to clip a little spot on my patient, and then I have a 6cc syringe, 6cc syringe with a 22 gauge needle. And then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move the camera over. I'm going to set this on the floor here. Good girl, Aria. This is Aria. This is my dog. She's a good girl. Okay, so I will have Tanya hold Aria, and we're going to collect from the jugular vein. So I'll have her get in position. That's okay, Aria. I know. Good girl. Okay, I'm going to actually move the camera over here. Good girl. I know. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shave a spot on Aria's neck. This is kind of an optional thing that you can do. Since I'm wearing gloves, I'm going to shave a little spot so we can feel a little bit better. So. Okay, just a small little window. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prep my site with isopropyl alcohol. So we'll just kind of make sure we and then with my 6cc syringe, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw blood, and when I insert the needle, you want to make sure it's bevel up. So go ahead and take off my cap. Go ahead and I'm going to raise the vein by putting my hand at her thoracic inlet here. Okay. Good girl, Aria. Good girl. Okay, once we collect our sample, I'm going to have my assistant compress the vein. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in our EDTA tube first, so it doesn't clot. And we're just going to let it take as much as it needs. Okay, then we're going to gently invert a few times. Set that aside. I'm then going to go ahead and put it in my serum separator tube here. Again, we're going to let it take as much as it needs here. Good girl. And last but not least, we're going to get just our plain red top or white top tube. We're going to make sure we label our tubes with our patient name and date. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pause and we're going to let these clot for 15 to 30 minutes, and then we will spin them down. Okay, so now that we've let our blood tubes clot for 30 minutes, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to centrifuge them. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that we take our tube. This is my no additive, aka red top tube, white top tube in our case. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to just kind of break up the clot here. It's called rimming the sample. I'm going to go ahead and place the tube back on. We're going to place this tube into the centrifuge here. So when doing this, you want to make sure that you have a balancing tube on the other side, and that tube should have the same amount of fluid in it as the other one, and it should be the same type of tube. So we're going to go ahead and put that in on the other side. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our serum separator tube here, and we're going to go ahead and also do the same thing. I'm just going to break it up from the side here. Set that aside. I'm just using a little wooden stick for that. Okay. And we're going to take our labeled serum separator tube and we're going to put it into the centrifuge here. And then again, we're going to take our other balancing tube and we're going to go ahead and put it on the other side, so that way they are just right across from each other. So we have a nice balanced centrifuge here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, without further ado, we'll go ahead and start the centrifuge. So we're going to close. Our centrifuge actually has a setting for the blood, and you want to look at the speed RPM, and it looks like we're going to be right about 3.5. So we're going to set it at 3.5 for the speed, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn the timer to 10 minutes. Okay, and then we wait. Okay, so now that our centrifuge has completed its spin, we're going to go ahead and we're going to harvest our serum. So we'll go ahead and open our centrifuge. Okay, so let's take a look here. Okay, so we can see here, this is our this is our serum separator tube, and as you can see, this sample to me looks a little hemolyzed. So we'll go over what that means in just a sec. I'll go ahead and get out my plain tube here. I would also have to say this looks slightly hemolyzed as well. And we'll explain why that happens and how it happens and how it affects everything else. So we'll go ahead and harvest our serum here. So we're going to take plain, no additive, red top aka white top tubes, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a pipette, and I'm going to go ahead so I'm going to take, hopefully you can see this here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my pipette and I'm going to draw up, hold this so hopefully you can see it, draw up, being careful not to touch the bottom red blood cell layer. And we're going to transfer it to our clean tube here. Okay. Okay, so there's that. We'll set that tube aside for just a second. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to transfer our serum separator tube here as well. So again, our sample looks a little hemolyzed to me. I'll explain what that means in just a second. I mean, you can use the same pipette on the same patient. That's totally fine. So we'll go ahead. This one's a little easier to draw out because it has the gel in between. So you don't have to be quite as careful. You always have to be careful, but you don't have to worry about hitting the red blood cell layer there at the bottom, like you did with the other tube. And these two serum separator tubes are actually do the same thing, but the gel serum separator tube can sometimes affect lab results. So a lot of times you'll use this type of serum separator tube, but sometimes a certain lab test will call for a no additive, no gel serum separator, as sometimes the gel can affect lab results. So in that case, you would use your plain white top tube here. Okay, so I have my 2 samples of serum here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to label it with the patient name and the date. So this is Aria. The date. Okay, now I'm going to show you my finished product here. Again, definitely have a little hemolysis present here. I'm going to pause the video and then we're going to kind of go over why this happens and how you can do, what you can do to prevent it. So, okay, so what can you do to prevent hemolysis? So hemolysis, as you can see, this sample is hemolyzed. So that means that you can see serum is really supposed to be a nice clear color. This is kind of has a pinkish tinge to it, and the reason is because some of the red blood cells have actually burst and been damaged, and because of that, it's actually leaked into our serum here. So this is actually not an ideal sample. It's okay for the sake of the video for learning purposes, but ideally hemolysis is kind of frowned upon. It's not ideal. It can skew chemistry results. And the way it can skew chemistry results is, one of the ways is actually when the red blood cells burst and they open, they can release some of the things that are inside of them and can change chemistry results, such as can cause an increase in potassium. So would be preferable not to have this hemolysis here, but kind of is what it is for now. What we can do to avoid this, hemolysis basically can come from damage to the red blood cells. So, you know, if you were too vigorous with shaking or rocking your sample, if you just kind of, you know, were careless with it, you might have used too small of a needle. That can also cause it. You always want to use at least a 22 gauge needle. You wouldn't want to use something like a 25 gauge needle. It's just a little too small. The other way it can happen is you're never supposed to press down on your plunger for your syringe. That can also cause hemolysis. You're supposed to, that's why these are vacuum pressured tubes, is because you don't have to actually do that. So those are just a couple ways it can turn out. So also, with that being said, I don't have a lipemic sample available, but I'll tell you about what it is. So a lipemic sample is when you spin down your serum and it turns into this milky white, it reminds me of like a, sort of like strawberry milk or something. That's what it reminds me of. Strawberry flavored milkshake, something like that. So it turns into this milky white color usually. And that actually happens because of the amount of fat and triglycerides in the blood sample. And the biggest reason that occurs is because the animal was not fasted, or particularly if they had recent fatty food. Lipemic sample is not ideal either. You often, this is one of the reasons that'll be turned away, especially with triglyceride sensitive tests. Like if you were actually sending out a triglycerides test, a lipemic sample would probably be turned away. It can elevate the glucose, especially if the animal just had a fatty meal. It can skew results such as that. So you know, a lipemic sample can best be avoided by ensuring that the patient is 12-hour fasted. Certain kinds of diseases can cause lipemic samples, but ultimately make sure your patient is fasted.